Welcome to the Tom Heck for Governor Digital Town Hall. Drop into the group chat and join the conversation. This is your chance to get to know Tom, make a comment, or ask him anything you want to know about his plans as the next governor of Nevada. And Tom will take your comments and your questions and answer them live. If you'd like to join the Tom Heck team as a volunteer, to make a donation, or both, please visit electheck.com. Now, without any further ado, let's get the show rolling. Welcome to the Tom Heck for Governor Digital Town Hall. Hi, and welcome to the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall. My name is Kramer, and with me, my special guest, as always, is Tom Heck, who is running for governor in the state of Nevada. And tonight we're going to discuss a number of different things because of how important what we've got going on in the state here is. So, Tom, let's jump right into it. We're going to bypass about who you are and all the other stuff. Let's talk about the most important issues in the state. Most important issues in the state are, number one, education. You agree?
Absolutely. It's like we're depriving our children of their future. It's criminal.
Public safety, number two.
Absolutely. Have to make, if people aren't safe, I'm not doing my job. I consider that the most important thing that a governor does is to make sure that the people in Nevada are safe wherever they work, live, and play.
So what we have in place right now are two big issues: education and safety, public safety. The two people that are responsible for that in the state of Nevada currently are already in office.
Career politician,
Steve Sisolak. We've got Joe Lombardo. They're already in office. Now, they say that they're going to guarantee these new things down the road. They're going to make public safety a big issue when they get elected as governor. But he's already got, Sisolak is already governor. Lombardo's already sheriff. They're already in the position to do that. Why aren't they doing it now?
Well, I think the reason they're not doing it now is they're in over their head. I mean, it's the same old. You know, from the data I looked at, every year for the last, I guess, mostly 10 years, Lombardo, the crime rate has gone up every year that he's been sheriff. You know, one of the things that he did is he disbanded the gang unit. Why would you disband a gang unit when you got MS-13 here and you're not dealing with them? It's a problem. You know, we're more concerned about perception than people's safety. You got to deal with people's safety and make sure people are safe. I mean, you know, the homicides, I got data here. The murders are up 44%. Rapes are up 8%. Burglaries are up almost 7%. Larceny is up 8.5%. And vehicle theft is up 22.5%. So I would think it's scary if you're getting in your vehicle, especially at night. These guys have been doing this for a long time, and they're not doing it. So if they can't do it for their little microcosm of Nevada, what do you expect they're going to do as your next governor? Probably the same old, same old. You know, career politicians for the last 40 years have destroyed the state of Nevada. We have not improved one iota in whatever we've done. So we need to do something different. I will revolutionize government and politics in the state of Nevada with your support.
Well, we've got questions already coming in from DC. It says, hi, Tom. I think you're the most qualified, but I feel everyone else has more exposure. That's why they get more people voting for them. What are you doing right now to get the word out about the Heck campaign and what you're bringing to the state of Nevada?
Well, we're finding phenomenal access to our website from Facebook and YouTube, and what people are being driven to, they're being driven by the money. The Republican Party has deprived me of the opportunity, free speech, to tell my story to the voters. The way it works in Nevada, it's criminal. What they do, the Republican Party stands up and says, we don't support anybody in the primary. But what happens is, because they don't give money or support, the politically elite develop these PACs, and these PACs fund the chosen one, or the one whose turn it is next. Well, that's not what you voters. You voters get to decide who you want to run governor. So we're doing that this week. TV ads will come out. We're going to have more radio ads coming out. I'm doing some things up in Summerlin and Red Rock. Then I'm going back to Reno for a couple weeks. But I've been in Las Vegas for the last 8 weeks, just about.
Well, and that's the issue. It's great. It's a great question there, DC. one of the things that we've really done with the campaign is tried to do non-traditional paths. Reaching out to you like this, for example, is a way that nobody else is doing. They're not utilizing technology to its fullest extent. They're using the old standard ways because that's what's always worked. Why try something different if what's always worked has always worked for them? And that's why we have the career politicians that we have, because they continue to use the same tactics and the same strategies over and over and over again. And they're not giving you the best and the most because they don't know it's available, because they're only interested in getting that job. Doing anything past that, don't do that, because, well, that could be a problem. And that's what we've seen time and time again. For example, that's why Joe Lombardo won't go out and do any interviews. He won't go out to debates. He picks and chooses because he does not want to be in a position where he says the wrong thing at the wrong time and it's the end of his campaign. That's what his handlers are telling him to do.
Well, one of the things he does is, one day it's one position, the next day it's another position, and now the liberals are saying he's becoming more right. The comment I'd make to DC directly, DC, you can help me. Tell 10 of your friends to visit my website every week and just ask them to visit it. Because 4 out of 5 people that visit my website walk away saying, wow, that's impressive. I'm voting for him. We're working on, we're getting, I think we're in the 20,000 range now for people hitting on the website. We're going to get to probably 150, 250,000. And that's going to drive the vote. But the truth of primaries is people do their research in the primaries. And if people do their research, they're going to find me. I'm on Ballotpedia. I'm on Wikipedia. I've done all kinds of surveys for different groups. I just did an article in the Las Vegas Sun that came out. I think we saw it today on the website. So it's out there in lots and lots of places. What you're not seeing me in is you're not seeing me in the typical events where people have gone and already decided who they're voting for. I'm reaching out to the people at home who are getting ready to decide, and you will decide the election. And of course, my big push is with the military people. The military people understand what leadership is, and leadership is what this state needs. Someone to drive the train to get us where we need to go and get out of the train station like we've been stuck for 40 years.
Well, Tom, Gabriel chimes in. Yes, I believe it's a one-party system right now. That's why you're who I'm voting for, because we need real conservative Republicans back. And that's what we're finding time and time again. The American people aren't stupid. They know that Joe Lombardo is a hold your nose and vote candidate. And so they're talking amongst themselves. And that's what we've been doing over the last few weeks, is pushing content out across social media so that people are aware of it through there. We will start broadcast this next week. So to DC asking, hey, how are you going to get your name out? That all starts this week. People are generally starting to pay attention about 2 to 3 weeks before early voting. We're right in that window. So we'll start here relatively soon. In fact, one of the spots that we're going to be running is this spot right here. We'll take a look at it and come back to talk about it right after, because this is the most important issue in the state right now.
The Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. Tom Heck is running for governor for one reason: to revolutionize Nevada state government, beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
And that's how you do it right there. You call them out. We're tired of the career politicians playing the exact same game over and over and over again. They promise you something every 2 or 4 years, and then when they get in office, poof, they're gone. It's a magic trick. They disappear. Tom, talk to the people that are joining us tonight about the importance of what you think that you're going to bring, what the capabilities that you bring, how important it is that your training and your experience, what that'll bring to the state of Nevada, and how it I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. The best way that you think that you're going to be able to supersede what Sisolak or Lombardo would be capable of, because they're one-trick ponies. Kind of explain your idea on that.
Well, first off, my focus, and I want people to get my focus, is 5 things. I want to be the voice for the silent majority. That family of 2 kids and both husband and wife working 2 jobs. They're struggling. Nobody's looking out for them. We're sending money to illegals, and we're not taking care of them. The second, after the silent majority, is basically truth-telling and always doing the right thing. I'm going to do truth-telling at the expense of political correctness. I just want to be transparent with all of you, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And I'm like a boss who came in screaming, is why you did that. If I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, and don't be surprised. I'm all about common sense solutions and successful outcomes. Silent majority, truth-telling, doing the right things, and common sense solutions that produce successful outcomes. That's my focus. Me, I went to a leadership lab. Yes, the United States Air Force Academy is a leadership lab, and I learned from the day I got there, I learned to follow. Subsequent 3 years, it was all about, I had people under me that I was responsible for various pieces of what we did at the Air Force Academy. And then after that, I executed that leadership over 22 years, and then another 15 or 20 years in the civilian community. I'm known for the man with the plan and producing results.
Now I got to, Tom, I got to jump in on you. And the reason he says that he's the man with the plan is because it's actually etched on a 50 cal, right? A 50 cal shell,
a 30 millimeter shell.
There you go.
I was
sorry to interrupt. I just want to say that's
the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, because I was the guy that always came up with a solution to whatever's needed. I will revolutionize government and politics in Nevada. But I also bring the fact that in the military, we didn't get credit for trying and fighting. Trying and fighting is something that some of the candidates are saying. That doesn't give you any credit. It's about results. And I'm the results guy because in the military, you only got promoted if you produced results. And that's what I bring to Nevada is extensive education, extensive background and diverse background, working for probably 50 different departments and over 20 different agencies. And that's what I bring, that diverse set of experience. I'm not a one-trick pony like most of the rest of these guys out there. One-trick pony meaning they only know one thing pretty well, but know the other things. And it's not easy if you've not done it before to jump into something you've never done before, learn it, and make it a benchmark organization.
Well, in talking about these organizations that you worked for and all of the jobs that you've held with inside those, what's the foundation of your success in there? Did you just go in there and they just gave it to you, or was it education? By the way, I know the answer to that. Go ahead and give me your explanation of why you believe that education is so important for the citizens of.
Well, I've learned that I have 3 graduate degrees. I'm an engineer by schooling, and what it's done, it's synthesized a way of thinking to be able to. When you go to school a lot, it teaches you how to learn. It was all about how to learn. So I can quickly jump in an organization and learn what's important. How do I do that? Well, I have an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration from Pepperdine. They taught us focusing on critical success factors as you come into an organization. And as I executed that plan, it became clear to me that when you come up with critical success factors, you learn what's important in the particular organization, and you learn what you're going to get in trouble over in the short term. And so you work with the different people in the department to come up with what the critical success factors are. From that, you do strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, Kramer will tell me. But from that, you develop an action plan for that department so that you improve where you are. I mean, if you go and ask anyone in Nevada, they probably don't know what an action plan is. They probably don't know what critical success factors are. And if for 40 years in education, we're at 50th in the nation, no one's even tried to get us out of the bottom. And that's your children's future. And they're being blinded by this idiocy.
Well, that's the issue. When we first looked at the educational system in the state of Nevada, when you started a campaign, you always look at what are the issues, right? Well, we've got serious issues that have come up in the last 6 weeks in this country that we didn't even anticipate. That's out of our control at this point. But education should be something that we look at. And it's interesting that of all the issues, public safety, education, and jobs, that the most important issue right now in the state is education. I find that mothers and fathers know that career politicians are stealing their children blind because they're taking their education. And everybody says it's a problem. They say they're going to do something about it. They say that they have a plan. But here's the thing, Tom. I've been on every one of their websites. I've looked around. I see a lot of talk. I don't see a lot of planning. So talk about how your experience in the military, running military bases, running cities, being town managers, how does all of that experience come into play to help you be the perfect guy to get this job?
Well, you take the amalgam, you take it all together, education, military experience, 9 years working in local government, and you put all that together, and it gives you, especially the Air Force Academy, the confidence to take on things that no one else will ever take on. It's about having the intestinal fortitude to deal with issues that people are afraid to talk about. This is that truth-telling part. And what I tell you, the governor may not be able to do everything, but one thing for sure, 50% of his power comes from the bully pulpit. And a bully pulpit allows a governor to bring things to light that need to see the light of day, that have been hidden education for 40 years.
To an extent, what Trump did. That power of being able to say, I'm going to shine this light and illuminate this problem right here and make everybody lose their minds, and the left will set their hair on fire. But that process, why is it important to do that? I want you to go in depth tonight. What's the importance of doing that? What's the importance of doing that and doing it quickly, not over a 2 or 3 or 5 year period? Your approach is going to be fairly quick. So why explain that? Let's get into depth of what you're going to do and why.
Well, first off, Trump paid attention to what the silent majority wanted, needed, and that's where his focus was. And that's going to be my focus as well. But in education, it's not a hard problem. First off, we got a Department of Education for the state of Nevada that abdicates its responsibilities. You send your children to the store with some money for some groceries, and you don't send them and say, buy what you want, and then come back and put the change on the table. You tell them to give him a list. You tell him what to buy. When he comes back, you look at what he bought, you look at the change, and you see what was missing or what else they need. Well, the Department of Education sends money out to the school districts. That's it. They wash their hands of it, and they go about their business and doing something else. Not under my administration. When I'm your governor, coming up in the next year, I'm going to have my Department of Education, first off, someone that's from the best of the best in the nation, and then second, to work with each school district on what their funding needs are that are directly tied to goals and objectives for their particular district. And out of that will be outcomes to get us out of 50th in the nation. And if they don't achieve those or are unwilling to achieve those, we're not going to provide the money at all, period. The other piece of that's making sure that provides accountability to the school district to produce an outcome. That's what that part is about. Now, the schools themselves right now teach special ed, and then they have the classrooms, which are an amalgam or comprised of low performers, middle performers, and high performers, probably like the bell curve. Well, what I'm going to do as an executive order is we're going to have special ed continue on with separate teachers. Then we're going to have the lower performance groups in groups with certain numbers of teachers, the middle performing and the high performing with separate teachers. But what will that do? It'll stop the state of Nevada from teaching to the middle, where the lower people lose, the lower performing students lose, the higher performing students lose, and at best we teach some level of mediocrity. Unacceptable to me, and I'm sure it's unacceptable to you parents out there, because you want the best of your children, and we will have a VOTEC and a college prep direction. In Nevada right now, K through 12, only 19% are proficient in science, only 28% are proficient in math, and only 13% are ready for college. That is criminal in my mind. These career politicians led you to this disaster. I'm going to fix it for you fairly quickly.
Well, and that's the issue. The career politicians have gotten us here. And if you expect career politicians to fix what either they created, the problems they created, or to fix someone else's problems, you're being childishly naive. The approach that you're taking, Tom, is fairly aggressive. Why are you taking such an aggressive approach at this time?
Children are our future. We don't have time to waste. I mean, we've got kids that can't read or write. We've got kids that can't speak. I mean, from my standpoint, with my background in education and the emphasis my parents placed on it, this is criminal what we're doing to parents and their children. We're depriving them of a future. I mean, education, I've learned, gives you opportunities. As we get older, we narrow our path of what opportunities we have. We're starting out with a very narrow path when we don't have children that are educated effectively in K through 12. and that don't have a realistic path to college prep or to voc tech. This is absolutely criminal. We can't let it go on any longer. We don't have time to wait. And I assure you that will be the biggest focus of my administration, top to bottom. We can't be blinded to mortgaging our children's future. It is unacceptable, and we must do better, and we will. And with your vote, I'll be the guy that will fix this for you pretty quick.
Well, with that said, let's go ahead and jump in real quick, and let's show the new commercial that will be starting this week, and it's focused on education because it's such an important issue in this state. Hold on just a moment here.
The Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. Tom Heck is running for governor for one reason: to revolutionize beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
There you go. That is Tom's new commercial for education. It'll be starting sometime later this week or early next week. It's all over the web already. And if you see it and you're on social media, please share it. We would appreciate it. That helps us get our word out, and it doesn't cost us a thing, which is an actually better thing to do. One of the things that Tom has done in his campaign, and he probably hasn't taken enough credit for it, you may not see Tom's picture or image on street corners. You may not see them in yard signs. And there's a reason for that. It doesn't work. It's another one of those old things that politicians have used for years. And so they get hoodwinked into believing that they've got to spend all of that money on these signs. And these signs cost about $5 a piece to have produced. So you can imagine, if you see signs everywhere, how much that cost in donor money to be able to get that message in front of you. But the person who's putting it out there has already chosen a candidate. What's interesting is yard signs have never swayed who somebody's going to vote for. So, Tom, explain why your approach to your candidacy this way and looking at money and finances, again, looking for a success factor. Explain how this decision, how you would do the same type of approach with budgets and finances in state government, how these two things coincide with one another.
Well, it's always about producing successful outcomes for campaign. For me, my overriding, vision, if you will, is dollars per vote. For those of you who have followed me, in 2016, I ran for U.S. Senate. In 2018, spent $13,000. I had 10 videos, and in those 10 videos, they had 250,000 views. And I did Google ads because it's the electronic age. There's nothing. The Republican Party keeps telling me to do the same old, yard signs, street signs, mailers, yada, yada. But we're going out to you because you guys are waiting at home to hear the message from someone like me who actually can do the job. And that's what I'm focused on, is you guys. And I'm focused on the military. For all of you military out there, thank you for your service. If I get your vote, I will win this election single-handedly. Thank you. I really appreciate the support from all of you.
By the way, Tom, as we're doing this tonight, one of the things to bring up is that you carry a phone with you 24/7. The number for that phone is 775-393-0500. That's 775-393-0500. I'll put it up on the screen here in a moment. But tell us about that phone and why you think that it's so important to carry that around with you and what it allows people to do.
Well, a lot of the places and events that people go to, they want you to talk, and they want guys like me to talk at you about things that I think are important. But I'm more interested in talking with you about what you think is important. That's why I'm doing these town halls. But I take the phone with me so I can answer people's questions immediately when they come to mind. And I love talking to people about what they care about, because if I'm focusing on what they care about, then I think I'm going to be the best guy for the job. But when I ran for U.S. Senate in 2018, I had over 100 calls, I think probably a week. And it was amazing that the questions they asked, but I got to the heart of what they cared about by doing that. And I will answer my phone, and if I can't, I will get right back to you. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to answer your questions.
One of the other things that we're seeing a lot of out there right now is a lot of people trying to position themselves as conservatives. One of those is John Lee. Now, I'm only going to be on this for a moment. I don't think that John's a player. John's got issues. John's got an iPad that he can't quite explain how it got child porn on it. The explanations just don't meet. So I don't think he's a real contender. But one of the things that he's got in his new commercial, he says that he's a conservative 6 or 7 times. How would you like to count?
Well, when you guys have all talked to people, when they keep trying to tell you something, that means they're trying to sell you a bill of goods. Because if they have to keep repeating it to you, then they're really concerned that they're not. I mean, he was a Democrat one day in April last year, John Lee was, and then the next day in April he was a Republican, and then he says he's been a conservative all his life. We're supposed to discount the fact that he gave to Democrats and liberals across the board. We're supposed to get discount that he took money from them across the board. And then all of a sudden he woke up with a metamorphosis and he became a Republican. If you buy that, I got swampland in Florida to sell you, but I don't buy it.
Well, that's the hard one to believe, right? It's
a tough one.
Because
I'm going to tell you, I choke on that one.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think everybody does. So then let's talk about Joey Gilbert. Joey Gilbert is a fan favorite of a segment of Republicans in the state of Nevada. Joey stood up. He did the right thing. He stood up during COVID, and he filed a lot of lawsuits, apparently. But once you get past the lawsuits, what does Joey bring to the table?
Well, the only thing I can say about Joey is, Joey, $30 and a little bit of research, I'll file a lawsuit. My understanding is you only a couple of them been through the courts. It takes 2 to 3 years. By the time 2 or 3 years is done, this issue is over with. I mean, I would tell all of you voters out there, if you take COVID away from Joey, ask him what else he has. He has no clue about the issues. He has no clue about running a big organization. He's been a lawyer and a fighter. So a fighter celebrity and a lawyer, from my experience, they're pretty thin-skinned. And you can't have a governor that's thin-skinned if you're expecting to use the bully pulpit to change the national and local dialogue.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment.
Let's talk about that.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, Tom. That if I got to get this the right way. I want to make sure that it's clear what I'm saying here. What Joey did was patriotic. I mean, there's no ands, if, or buts about that. He stood up and did the right thing. But let's talk about this inability to do the next thing. Being a person of ideas, being a problem solver, is it good enough just to want it really bad?
Well, that goes back to my comment earlier about the trying and fighting. I mean, trying and fighting. I'm not into trying and fighting. I'm about outcomes. If I don't produce an outcome, I believe I get no credit, and I don't deserve any credit from all of you.
So that's my point. That's to my point. So to get that, and I think this is the learning curve that people don't understand about what we're talking about leadership, is that the learning curve of becoming a leader, what you have to fully understand is that you're going to have to do things that some people don't like. And you have to stand up and take whatever comes at you and keep going. Do you see any of these current candidates for governor in Nevada having that capability? Is that something that you think that they bring to the table?
Well, frankly, that's why I'm in the race. There is no one that's qualified to do this job. They're all weak. They're all beholden to someone somewhere, and they have no experience in running a government bureaucracy. I mean, if you're talking about most people that would jump into the state, they're going to get lost in the minutia. The problem is that you have information overload. And if you don't understand how to manage that and how to lead people, you're going to miss the boat. So I don't see that they have the experience to do that. And they're all, I think they all have thin skin because they haven't been through the things that I've gone through. The Air Force Academy. I mean, my first year, they yelled and screamed at us while they made us do things. It was about being able to do things under pressure, not being thin-skinned, and being confident enough, as someone once put it to me, confident enough to do the next right thing every single time.
Yep. Well, so I've been involved in politics for the last 15 years. And when I came to join Tom's campaign, one of the things that really drew me to him is that we talked about what do we want to do next? We're looking at where we are in this nation. When he and I talked, it was last fall, and his training, his background, and what he brings to the table, I realized immediately that Tom Heck is not your typical candidate. I've worked with typical candidates, the career guys. They got the perfect smile, the perfect hair. They talk right. They never say anything wrong. And there's something wrong with them. They're plastic. And what I liked about Tom was that he was real. But not only was he real, he had what it would take to do the job, both in stature, meaning his education, capabilities, and so on. But more importantly, he's done the job before. Running a large organization, a large corporation, a large base, or whatever is no different than running a state. So with that being said, we've got a number of different issues that we have here in the state of Nevada that need to be fixed. And for Tom's sake, he went outside, and this is how Tom works. He couldn't find what he needed in the state of Nevada. So he went outside of Nevada to look for someone to help him with his cause. Tom, would you do the exact same thing as governor? Do you intend to just hire from Nevada, or would you look at the rest of the planet for talent to bring in to Nevada to make Nevada a better place for the citizens of Nevada?
Well, first off, when you're in this position, the vision is that I treat taxpayers' money in Nevada like my own. So if I was doing this for me and it was my dollar, each and every one of them that we have, I'm going to hire the best of the best, and I'm certainly not going to waste a lot of taxpayers' money trying to figure out what to do and when to do it when there's great governors out there like Governor Walker from Wisconsin, Governor DeSantis from Florida, Governor Abbott, the governor from Alabama, the governor from South Dakota. All these people have done these things before, and we're just going to follow in their footsteps. That is what's going to allow me to quickly get these things done. But my first day effort does not start right after I'm inaugurated in January. My first day effort is November 3rd, when I crisscross the country to find the best of the best for the department heads of Nevada, because Nevada taxpayers deserve the best of the best. That is what I'm bringing, and that's what they will get.
Here's a question that's come up a couple times now from DC. The Las Vegas Elections Division covered the glass walls where the ballots were being counted. What do you think they were covering the big glass windows for during the presidential election? That's one. Another similar one is from Gabriel. Similar type question. What are your goals on fraudulent voting and voting transparency? What I'd like to do, Tom, real quick, is let's play the commercial. We'll come back and talk right after this. Let's play the commercial that we just did that is kind of addressing this issue. We've had a little bit of a problem getting it placed, mainly because social media will not let this air. So let's go ahead and air this, and we'll come back right back after this and talk about it. Maybe.
You know it. We all know it. Trump won. Biden lost. Democrats and rhinos stole the 2020 election. Hi, I'm Tom Heck. As your next governor, I will launch a statewide audit tasking the Nevada State Police with investigating any and all credible claims of fraud in the 2020 election. On the other hand, Joe Lombardo says there was no fraud in the 2020 election. In particular, Joe said the election was fair, and he saw no proof of election fraud. I think Joe's wrong. Dead wrong. What do you think, Nevada? I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
There you go. So hopefully that answers your question about where Tom Heck stands on elections. Tom, do you want to get into it a little bit more?
Yeah, I add a few more details because it's not about it's true. I believe it after I've so much what I've seen. But there's this election integrity group out there. Again, I talk about going and doing something that somebody's already proved. This election integrity group, they have some key components like no machines. We're going to have paper ballots that have watermarks and serial numbers, so they can't be duplicated. And then we're going to go ahead and end all this sanctuary city garbage. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to push to have election supervisors elected by you, the voters, because they need to be beholden to you about elections, not to some bureaucrat in the various cities and counties. The other piece of it is we have got to stop this ballot harvesting, and I'm going to champion voter ID. And either I'm going to get it through the legislature or I'm going to get it through a referendum. I've talked about, I digress a little bit, is three three PACs I want to have when I'm governor. One is for this particular issue is a PAC for money for referendum to support referendums. Two is a PAC for supporting candidates, conservative candidates in the primaries, and then supporting an army of lawyers to take on either the federal government when they're not being unconstitutional or anyone else in state government that's being unconstitutional. But we're going to make that happen. There are like three things in this country that Republicans, Democrats agree about: voter ID, vouchers for children, and securing the border. Those are the three things everyone agrees about. That's why either the legislature is going to get it done in Nevada, or I'm going to take it to the referendum. And with your help, we will get her done.
Well, that's the issue. People are tired. People are tired. I saw the numbers today. I don't know if you saw these, Tom. The numbers today on Biden's approval rating in this country is 16%.
Whoa.
16%. Who are they? I mean, the only people that I can imagine that they are the ones that are still making money. But it's not Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos came out and said just the exact same thing. He goes, the Biden administration, the Democratic policies, they are destroying the country. So if Sisolak continues in office, is he going to make Nevada better? I mean, why would he, right? He hasn't done it so far. He's promising to do it next time. What do you bring to the table? What do you think, or what would you do on day one? What's your plan for day one, taking over the office of governor in the state of Nevada?
Well, first off, your comment on Governor Sisolak is true. He was a commissioner. He came in to be the governor way over his head. I mean, he's in Las Vegas. Anybody with half a brain knows you can't run an organization that far away, especially a big government organization, and not be on top of what's going on. But he has no clue how to deal with issues. If you watch what he did, he copied Newsom from California. Whatever Newsom did in California, 2 weeks later, Sisolak did. So my first day in office, my focus is on, we're going to end this COVID garbage once and for all with an executive order stopping CRT and stopping vaccines, and we will never close government. And also, we don't want to have emergency orders for more than 30 days. And I will work with the legislatures to pass something that prevents it for more than 30 days without them extending it.
Let's go into that. Let's go into that. So we've talked about that, and it's interesting. It's an interesting tact. Most emergencies don't last longer than 30 days, typically. So explain why you think it's important that the legislature, the voice of the people, be called in after that 30-day period. What do they do for the people? What do they bring to the table by doing this? Why do you want to remove this power from the government?
Well, the United States is not a dictatorship. The only reason you do it for 30 days is because Nevada is so huge. In order to bring all the people's representatives to Carson City to make a decision of what they want to do, it takes a little bit of time to orchestrate that. So I want to give them time to do that, not only to physically get to Carson City, but then they need time to debate and talk about what's important to you, the voters, in this particular issue and how we sort through it. But I guarantee you that I will never, ever get between you and your doctor on medical issues. That is criminal. It's been sacrosanct for ages and ages. And all of a sudden, we've got leaders that jump in and start telling you what you can and can't do with your doctors. That's not going to happen in my administration.
Got another question from, this is from the electtech.com site. Why do you want to be Nevada's next governor?
Well, again, as I had mentioned earlier, I was looking at the field of candidates. There is no one that has the diverse background, diverse education, diverse experience, not only 20 some years in the military, almost 23 years in the military, 9 years in local government, a town manager, and I've been with 9 different city and county governments. So I understand what it's about, but I've run and worked in big bureaucracies in the military, and I understand what it takes to motivate people and what it takes to get things done in big organizations, but also understanding how to figure out what's important. There are too many things that the typical governor, politician, legislatures, their answer is, we're just going to throw money at it. Well, there's a lot of these problems, they're throwing money at symptoms, and we're not fixing the problem. So I bring to the table the ability to solve and fix problems, identify problems. My background is an engineer. First thing we do is identify the problem, determine what the givens are, and then determine options for solutions. And then we look at what the best solution is going to produce the successful outcome to meet and solve that particular problem. And that's what I bring to the table that no one else does.
Well, you've been talking about your lack of fear about firing people. One of the hardest things to do in government is fire people. What's your approach to firing people in government?
Just get her done. People, I've been to so many places. They say you can't do that. You can't fire this group. You can't fire that group. The bottom line is, if you have the will, there's a way, and you try to follow the rules. But my belief in Nevada, the only ways we're going to change the way Nevada's going, we're going to fire the top 3 layers of leadership, and we're going to start over with the best of the best. Right now, we've got too many people in there that we're good old boys. They hired their friends hired their friends, and so we got too many people that just don't have the ability to do the job, and we can't afford to do that anymore. We are wasting taxpayers' money every day by people sitting around. We were laughing today, Kramer and I. We were trying to call someone at the state. We got voicemail. No one answers their phone. That's a problem. Not under my administration. That will never happen.
Yeah, we called for 2 hours trying to find out, is there an office of Inspector General? Because Tom is going to initiate an office of Inspector General. And in an article, which is an interesting article in the, the Sun Journal, right? Is that it?
The Las Vegas Sun.
The Las Vegas Sun. Okay, the Las Vegas Sun. The reporter, Tom gave his information. And then she put her opinion in the middle of it to fact check him in the middle of an interview. This is a problem, folks, because what she said was in the interview is that, well, there's already an office of Inspector General. No, there's not. You don't have one. Nevada doesn't have one. Not like what Tom wants to do. Is there an office of Inspector General for the prison? Yep. What does he report on? The prison. So if he reports on the prison, how does that affect you in banking or anything else? Now, they've said that they've put a new office of Inspector General in, and he's going to oversee departments. We can't find it. And if you can't find it, it's useless. Tom plans to put in an effective OIG office in the state of Nevada. Tom, explain that and how important, how imperative that is to getting the job done that you want to get.
Well, there was legislation that appeared from our research that it was passed. But the most critical organization in a state, the Office of Inspector General, if you can't in 2 hours find a phone number, it can't possibly exist. But anyway, the Office of OIG that I want is one that's beholding directly to the governor, with the governor's full weight and power behind them to root out fraud, waste, and abuse in the state. And also to take suggestions of ways to do things better and save your taxpayer dollars. And that's what I want in the Office of Inspector General. I don't want them sitting around writing a whole bunch of reports and documenting a whole bunch of things. I want them to get in and find out where we're wasting money in the state, come up with a quick action plan, and drop it on the agency to fix and to regularly follow up. We have to do that because we need to be better stewards of taxpayer money. And clearly, the attitude in the state is, it's good enough for government. Well, not under my watch. I'm going to treat that money as my money, and we're going to make sure we take care of it and spend it wisely. And that's what the OIG is going to do. And it'll also hear from particular people that work for the state and outside the state saying, hey, you're doing this, this, and this, and you're wasting money. We want to know, and that will allow them to ferret it out. In the military, we had a suggestion program where anybody that made a suggestion, one I remember was on jet engines. It was like $1 million savings for the military a year. And so they gave this guy like, I don't know, $50,000, $20,000, $100,000 for this suggestion. I want to do something like that in the state of Nevada, and I'll get the legislators to support that.
Awesome. Well, it's interesting. Tom, that the things that are important to people, they always tell you. The numbers always tell you. We've been running some tests and doing some polling of our own, and what we come to find out is that of all the issues going on right now, minus gas prices, inflation, and all of that, that's out of your control. That's a Biden issue. We'll put that at his feet,
The
right?
people can take care of that in a couple of years.
Right. Or they'll take care of it sooner. It's going to get taken care of here one way or the other here fairly quickly. The thing that came up, we looked at issues that were important in the state of Nevada. And when we did an initial polling, it led us kind of down the path, and then we fine-tuned it. It's amazing to me that what we thought was the most important, education, that's exactly what the people of Nevada are really, really pushing. That's what they want. They know that their state is in dire need of an overhaul, a revolution inside the education system. We're going to play your commercial, and then we're going to come right back and talk about how you plan to revolutionize Nevada, the Nevada education system.
Is the Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. For one reason, to revolutionize Nevada state government, beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
So there you go. That is what Tom plans to do down the road as governor, is revolutionize it. Tom, explain how you plan to do that.
Well, you have to start with the leadership, as I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go across the country and find the best of the best to be my education department executive, and to make sure that they're empowered to do what needs to be done. The second piece of it, from a bigger picture, is to make sure that the education department holds school districts accountable for outcomes. Right now, we're just sending money out there and then they do what they want with it, and not acceptable to me. We're not going to be 50th in the nation 2 years from the day I'm inaugurated. And if you look at it, if you look at the education of the different candidates, would you think someone with extensive education would have a better understanding of how to educate your kids than someone that's just been a sheriff, a mayor, a career politician, or just a lawyer and a boxer? Come on. It's going to take someone that really understands education and really has the intestinal fortitude to go toe-to-toe with, I think it's called the NSEA, the teachers union. You know, I did a survey for them, and it was interesting. That whole survey, there was not a single question about how do we improve student learning and outcomes for students, both VOTEC or college prep. Not a single one. They want more money for the same outcome. I can't justify more money for the same outcome. You tell me we're first in the nation, I can buy that. We're not even close. So it's going toe-to-toe to them and get them to make and support and focus on the children's learning so that they can be successful later in life, so that we do the parents a service and not a disservice by blindly leading them down the broken path of failure in education.
Right. It's a great point. I mean, here's what you're doing is you're shorting the kids. Think about it, it's a relay race. And if the kids of Nevada start in 50th place, there's 49 other states in front of them that outperform them.
And they're not wearing any tennis shoes.
Right. And what kind of chance do they have in life to get anywhere if they're already starting that far back? Everyone in the country knows that Nevada and New Mexico have issues with their educational system. But do you know the difference between New Mexico's and Nevada's? New Mexico is ahead of Nevada.
So aren't we behind Puerto Rico too?
Well, that's if you throw in Puerto Rico, Nevada actually falls behind Puerto Rico numbers. So these issues that we're talking about tonight are important issues. We joke about them sometimes because sometimes it's easier to laugh than it is to think about them because it'll make you cry. We've got a situation in this country where our politicians, our career politicians, they're not going to do anything more today, right now, than they did yesterday. They'll promise you more, but they won't do more. Tom, explain why they don't have to do more if you elect them.
Well, first off, I want to briefly just talk about projected income for people with a really good high school education, or with a good college education, and or a VOTEC trade education. The expected amount of money that they're going to make in a lifetime is huge. Right now, we have kids graduating from high school that have difficulty taking a job. We're bringing in all these high-level jobs with these businesses we're bringing into the state, which is we should get accolades for that. But we don't have kids or people in Nevada that can fill those jobs. We have got to do something about our education. So it's just really important that we really take care of education. And you got to go toe to toe. You got to have the intestinal fortitude to take on these special interests. And basically, it's the art of the deal, as Trump said. I'm a fan of his art of the deal. You got to have leverage, and you got to take these groups on, and you got to get them to understand what's important. There's no focus on how to improve adult learning. I bet you in the state you cannot find a document that talks anything about how we improve learning for students in Nevada, and what are the things that need to be addressed to do that.
But I'll bet you can find something with CRT in it. I'll bet you can find something with gender equity. I'll bet you can find stuff that are the talking points of the Democrats right now. What do you want to bet?
Oh, absolutely. And people think, well, it's just CRT. It's insidious. That whole CRT thing is bound with fingers of socialism, anti-parism, teaching our children that they're either a victim or an oppressor, teaching that the whites are racist, that the whites are bad. And when I'm governor, this is going to be a state that is colorless. We're going to strip all that racial, creed, color, and pictures from the documents of people that we're doing various things with. We're not going to do that. That federal thing about the hearing.
Explain what you mean by that. What you're talking about is you want to take the race issue off of all forms, correct?
Right. Because everything we're doing, if you watch in the daily news and everywhere, they're talking about every day. And then you focus on that. And everything that people look at is through the jaundiced eyes of racism. And I'm going to take all those things about racism, color, creed, sexual orientation, gender, and pictures off of these forms that get people hired, off these forms. It's going to be in Nevada about marriage, and we're going to get back to being a colorless country like we used to be, and stop focusing and making sure that people are seeing through this jaundiced lens of racism. It just doesn't exist. But the only place children learn racism is either in the home, which happens rarely nowadays, or in school. And it's happening a lot.
Well, they're being told. They're being told.
That's right.
I mean, they're being instructed. So that brings up another question. What is your plan? What is your plan for VOTEC? You've brought up VOTEC a number of times in education. Kind of break that down. What are you talking about? When you talk about VOTEC classes or vocational training classes in high school, what does that entail?
Well, we just need to make it a true educational path that kids can choose from. And, one of the things that's unique that I bring from the Air Force Academy, most people graduate from college with 120 hours. I graduated with 189 semester hours. Well, what does that mean? That means I was exposed to a whole litany of courses. What does that mean? I was able to look at things that interest me and decided whether I really wanted to have a lifelong interest. I ended up in engineering. Well, that's what we need to do in schools. A lot of places have cut out shop classes, phys ed, they've cut out home ec, they've cut out all these music and all these ancillary things that people find their passion in. The successful people in life end up pursuing things in a career that's their passion. And that's what's important for the schools. A plumber is a 6-figure salary nowadays. And we want to encourage, if people want to do that. Some people like to work with their hands. Plumbers, electricians, HVAC people, heating, ventilation, and air people. That needs to have the same strong focus and career path as college prep. And then people can choose. But we need to have a broad breadth of experience.
Tom, you said it the other day. The thing about these jobs is that these jobs in particular, a plumber, an electrician, HVAC, the lawn guy, all of these, they cannot be outsourced. Nobody in Pakistan or India or South America is going to be able to do that job. You've got to have somebody physically here. And these schools have to get back to the point where they're training these basic skills to be able to give kids an opportunity. Those kids not all kids are going to go to college. It's just not going to happen.
But they should have a choice, and they should have exposure to various things. So kids grow up with basically an empty slate. And you need to expose them to a certain amount of things so that they can decide what their passion is. They can decide whether they like math or English or science or physics or chemistry or plumbing or heating and air conditioning or electricians. They need to be exposed to these things so they can choose and find their passion early so they can choose their career path that will make the difference. And we need to have good guidance counselors like I had in school that will help people determine what that path is for their passion. This is my path that I'm passionate about, being the governor to fix this mess.
Well, one of the interesting things that came up in the polling and the research that we've been doing, we knew that education would be a big issue in this election. We knew that candidates that focused on education and really talked about this and had a plan in place would be able to touch a certain segment of the population and get attention. And we're not just doing it for attention. Trust me. Tom's talked about this from the very beginning, but we always thought that education would be one of the wedge issues that we could talk about, especially with the career politicians that aren't currently doing anything about it in the state. And no, they're not. Throwing more money at it and getting the same result is not doing something about it. It's wasting money is what it is. With that being said, we did the polling, we did the research, and education was the number one issue for parents in Nevada. The second issue in Nevada has come out to be elections. And we've been asked about it twice now tonight. We're going to show Tom's new commercial on how he intends to address election fraud from 2020 and going forward.
You know it. We all know it. Trump won. Biden lost. Democrats and rhinos stole the 2020 election. Hi, I'm Tom Heck. As your next governor, I will launch a statewide audit tasking the Nevada State Police with investigating any and all credible claims of fraud in the 2020 election. On the other hand, Joe Lombardo says there was no fraud in the 2020 election. In particular, Joe said the election was fair, and he saw no proof of election fraud. I think Joe's wrong. Dead wrong. What do you think, Nevada? I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
Wow. So, Tom, let's talk about the 2020 election. Was there cheating in the 2020 election?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And more comes out every day. You recently talked about in Pennsylvania, they got back 170,000 more mail-in ballots than they sent out. I have some experience in math, but that looks to be suspicious to me. So that's just one example. There's hundreds of them out there, but everybody wants to poo-poo it because the liberals don't like the answer to that. But they want to say you're a magician or something and you're clueless. But it's true. It's a problem. You know what Nevada misses.
Let's talk about that. Well, you had today, we found out from the article that the interview that you did, again, this journalist decided in the middle of the article to put things in parentheses. What did she say about your claim of election fraud in 2020?
Well, I'm used to writing papers for classes. You know, you have to footnote everything that you're saying that's a statement and not an opinion. Well, in there, she makes an opinion that it's been proven false. Well, and she says, you know, all these cases have gone to court and they've been disapproved. Well, what she didn't get research enough to, one, is to document that she took it from somewhere, which I'm assuming she didn't. I think she just made it up based on typical news. But the problem is that the documentation for it is just, it's not accurate. What happened was Trump took these arguments to courts. They went to the liberal judges, and the judges, for the most part, threw them out because of lack of standing or some other administrative technical reason. None of these, as best I could find anywhere that I've researched, were thrown out based on the facts and the evidence. You can't say.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a moment. People don't know why judges do that. They have no understanding of why a judge doesn't want to hear that case. And the judge, just like the Supreme Court sometimes will not hear a case. They refuse to hear it. Judges have that option. So if people remember the hanging Chad election
in
Florida, no judge wants to go through that again. No judge wants to be responsible. Like the Democrats said that the Supreme Court decided an election. That's how they spun it. No judge wants to be put in that position again. So with that information in there, do you think that had something to do with it, that they didn't want to be that speed bump in history, that one that's noted? Do you think it's just that simple?
I think so. I talked to some people that work for the state of Nevada, and their whole goal in life is not to do anything so they can't make a mistake and be held accountable for it. And that's the same exact thing the judges do. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to get the visibility out there, and because they don't want to be accountable for making a decision based on the law and the evidence.
Well, that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier. Most people don't understand. They heard this number. There were 60 cases that got thrown out. 60 cases that got thrown out. And they did not get thrown out. They were never heard. There's a difference when a judge refuses to hear a case because of whatever reason, standing or whatever issue. To Tom's point, that's a technical issue that it's arbitrary, right? Nobody knows. They said they did. The judge says, nope, I refuse to hear it for that. And so it stops, it stalls. These legal issues have been conflated into people believing things that aren't correct. Not one single case of voter or election fraud has been brought forward yet and gone through. Not one. They haven't let one go through. Not a single one. Out of all the claims in 2020, not a single one has actually gone to trial or been set in front of a judge. None of them.
Well, and the other piece of it is, if you really understand that this election was decided by the 4 battleground states collectively by 42,000 votes. So a difference of 42,000 votes in these battleground states would have changed the outcome. And if you understand how tight that was, then you can't just arbitrarily say they were thrown out and they didn't count. Well, no, you got to do your homework and you got to do your research. And if you're doing a research paper like supposedly a journalist does, you got to cite your references. You can't just throw something in there as an opinion. But journalism, we've lost journalism over the last 10 years. It's not journalism anymore. It's a free-for-all for everybody to put forth their hidden agenda, which doesn't seem to be hidden anymore. You know, I've looked at this over and over again, and the problem with this whole journalist issue is that we are not focusing on what the facts are. You know, back many years ago, the focus was always on what's the truth and how best to portray the truth. And journalist Walter Cronkite, he never admitted to what party he was partial to. He did news based on the facts, and that's what they pushed forward. We don't care. Our news, for the most part today, I'm pretty well convinced is propaganda, and they're telling stories that aren't backed up by the facts on the ground. And
I think it's interesting. Interesting. I on social media, I made a video a few weeks ago, and I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago, about these new numbers that were coming out, and from Pfizer. It was taken down as misinformation. Today, Forbes reported the exact same thing. So, you know, this issue that we've got in the country right now, Tom, let's talk about that. What would you do as governor in the state of Nevada on this social media issue? Would you follow any other states' guidelines or so on?
Absolutely. I'm going to do exactly what Governor Santos did. We're going to hold those people accountable for the truth. And we're going to set it up so that people that aren't portraying the truth can be sued by citizens in Nevada. And that's how you hold those social media people accountable. And if enough of the states do that, then these sites are going to be forced to focus on the truth. I certainly applaud Elon Musk and his efforts to bring truth and the American way back to Twitter. You know, instead of being propaganda, we're hoping we get freedom of speech back there with his help. And I certainly applaud every bit of his effort. And he's my hero for bringing back, because a democracy is not a democracy without freedom of speech. And we have too many people that I've talked to over and over again. I'm not going to speak up in public. I don't want to say that in public. You know, they might rip up my car or tear up my house or congregate about my house like they're doing with the Supreme Court justices because they don't like what they're doing. That is not America. And America and I grew up with sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We need to get over it and move on with the truth in a free country with freedom of speech. And I will support everything in that manner. And any place where we lose freedom of speech, I will be there with a cast of thousands to protest why we've lost freedom of speech. We've got to stop the lying, the misleading, and especially with medical issues. I think, you had mentioned the other day, the efficacy of the COVID vaccine from Pfizer was 12%. So if you're going to take a chance on protecting yourself for 12%, are you going to risk your life for that? I don't think so. But the government failed to tell you that, and they hid it. Pfizer and the government hid it from you, and that is unacceptable to me, and that will never happen under my administration.
And this type of thing is what we need here in the state of Nevada. It's time to turn things around. It's time to give the government back to the people. One of Tom's first things, and he didn't mention it much tonight, but is limiting the power of the governor. His first thing in office is to go in and work with the legislature to remove power from the governor and give it back to the legislature, which is the voice of the people. That is the executive. That's not the executive branch is just like it is in U.S. Congress. The legislature, Congress, is your voice. And so Tom is the only governor coming forward and saying, listen, what Sisolak has done over the last 2 years was not only unnecessary and damaging, but it was unconstitutional. And no one's speaking up to that issue. Nobody. Do you know why? Because they want to maintain that power for themselves. Tom, talk about that, why you think that it's important to remove this type of power from one man.
Well, the perfect example of it was back when we had Sandoval, Republican Assembly, a Republican Senate, and they passed the commerce tax. What's criminal about it is 78% of you voters voted against the margin tax, but they just changed the name and they passed it. Never have I ever seen something like that happen. That's what's criminal about it, and that's why I'm going to support the silent majority and make sure their voice is heard and make sure we're following what they need, because the governor should not have that total power to decide what you do day in and day out. I'm going to get government out of your business. I'm going to get government out of small business, and we're going to take and get rid of regulations that are antiquated and not working and are not needed. And we're going to cut taxes as well, because we've got too much government in Nevada. Perfect example. I talked to a legislature one time, and I was asking them how they logically go through a process to get rid of programs that are failing. His answer to me was, we don't do that. We just determine how much we're going to raise it. In other words, they're telling me how much you're going to go back in your taxpayer pocket for more money every year, whether it's needed or not. That's unacceptable. That's why I'm proposing, and I will do a 10% budget cut the first year, because we need to get out of your pocket, and we need to make government effective, efficient, and taking care of business for the people.
Well, and make the people that are working for you, Tom's going to be the executive, the CEO, make the people that are actually working for you in state government perform and be, what's the best word? Be afraid of losing their job because they're not doing their job. Would that be fair to say?
Well, the career politicians spend more time keeping their job than doing their job. I guess they must have learned it from them.
Must be where it gets from. Well, Tom,
not okay in my world.
We're going to play your commercials again here. We're going to come back and wrap up. We've been doing this for about an hour and 15 minutes. If you've got any questions for Tom, go ahead and jump on, and we will come back right after this and talk about wrapping everything up.
Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. Tom Heck is running for governor for one reason: to revolutionize Nevada state government, beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message. You know it. We all know it. Trump won. Biden lost. Democrats and rhinos stole the 2020 election. Hi, I'm Tom Heck. As your next governor, I will launch a statewide audit tasking the Nevada State Police with investigating any and all credible claims of fraud in the 2020 election. On the other hand, Joe Lombardo says there was no fraud in the 2020 election. In particular, Joe said the election was fair, and he saw no proof of election fraud. I think Joe's wrong. Dead wrong. What do you think, Nevada? I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
So those are some big issues. You're addressing some big issues. Tom, go ahead and let's wrap up. Talk about these issues that you want to address, why they're important to you, and why you're running for governor in the state of Nevada.
Well, I think one of the big issues that I would call it my naivety was thinking that the Republican Party was an honest broker. I mean, I debated in the city of Reno, and I got the same number of votes as Dean Heller. But then I was invited to go and debate at Dragon Ridge in Las Vegas, and I accepted, RSVP'd, sent it in. They got it. I arrived there. Clark County Republican Party, Jesse Law told me I didn't meet the criteria to debate. And I said, well, what was the criteria? Well, you kind of don't have a professional staff, and well, kind of like I says, well, yeah, I get that. It's a double super secret criteria that you don't want me to debate because you don't want to hear my message. Because a common sense guy like me, they can't afford to hear it. I'm not beholden to them, and that's the problem they have. That's why I'm appealing directly to all of you, so that you get the opportunity to see someone that really knows how to do this stuff and to make it better. And you have a party that's biased. And then I went to Keystone, and Keystone wouldn't let me debate. And now I'm facing Channel 8, and Channel 8 says, well, I got to have an office. Well, I'm getting to all of you people, tens of thousands of people via the electronic system, digital, and they're saying I need an office. Well, why do I need an office? Again, to waste money. And if you look at what the Republican Party's doing, they won't give the candidates their email addresses because they want to do it to get all the money for them, but they won't give the new candidates money. As your next governor, I talked about having a PAC to support conservative candidates. That money, I'm going to fund one or two candidates in each primary session so that they can compete. The conservative candidates that will represent you well, that's what I'm going to support. The election fraud's got to stop. I will do that. In the military, we had big exercises. It was always about process improvement. The big exercises, we did lessons learned for each big exercise. Korea, we had 35,000 people. And we come up with lesson learned, develop action plans for each of the agencies to make things better the next time. That's what I'm going to do for your elections. We're going to have action plans, lessons learned from each of the elections through my tour of duty in the administration and my administration as your next governor. And we're going to make things better. And absolutely, we're going to give your children a great future. Come with me, join me, vote for me, and we will make your children's future bright and rewarding and challenging.
And isn't it time to get done? Aren't you done with the career politicians? I mean, Trump was right. Trump was right. Look at what he did. He was not a career politician. He was able to get things done because career politicians think inside the career politician box. They don't think outside of the box unless it means getting extra money in their pocket. Trust me. So if you're wanting change, if you're wanting to take Nevada in the right direction, move it in the right direction, you've got to get a leader, guys. You've got to get a leader, ladies and gentlemen, that allows you to do that, has the fortitude to do that and the training to do that. That guy right here is Tom Heck. Tom, I'm going to wrap everything up here. Do you have any last words before we call it an evening?
One last comment, guys. If you really want something different, if you want to revolutionize politics in Governor Nevada, please send $20. Get on my website, give me the money. We're trying to get some TV ads out next week. Our goal is to get $50,000. If you can afford to give us money, 10, even $100 or $1,000, you can give up to $5,000 per person. And that will help us get the word out and get it on the TV so that you guys feel like that your friends are hearing our message. Thank you so much for coming and hearing my story, listening to what we're going to do for Nevada. And I really am looking forward to taking care of Nevada for all of you voters. Thank you. God bless America. God bless Nevada. And God bless all of you. Thank you all.
Thank you for being a part of the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall, where Tom is giving the people of Nevada their voices back. Join Tom every Monday night at 7 p.m. as he discusses his plans for Nevada directly with you, the people of Nevada. Do you still have questions? Call Tom directly, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at 775-393-0500. That's 775-393-0500. And yes, Tom actually answers his phone. If you'd like to join the Tom Heck for Governor campaign as a volunteer, to make a donation, or both, please visit electech.com. Thank you again for being a part of Democracy in Action, and only on the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall. Mark your calendar now and plan to join Tom again next Monday night at 7 at electech.com, as well as these video streaming platforms.